Broke? Feeling squeezed by property taxes that jump 10% every year while your HOA bans chicken coops and raised garden beds? What if I told you there are towns across America literally begging you to move there, and they'll hand you up to $15,000 in cash just for packing your bags and showing up with a laptop? I'm talking real places like Tulsa, Oklahoma dropping 10 grand on your doorstep, West Virginia throwing $12,000 at remote workers, and Kansas going full desperate with $15,000 relocation bonuses. These aren't scams or pyramid schemes. These are actual city governments so starved for decent residents they're bribing people like you to escape the overpriced, over-regulated hellscapes you're stuck in right now. Let's dive into these programs before every retiree with a Wi-Fi connection figures this out. Hit that like button because sticking it to high rent is always worth celebrating, and subscribe unless you enjoy paying premium prices to live under someone else's rules forever. Let's start in the Sooner State, Tulsa. Yes, that Tulsa. The one you probably drove through once and thought was just another Oklahoma oil town with more pickup trucks than Starbucks. But here's the twist nobody talks about. They'll hand you $10,000 cash just for moving your remote job laptop there and planting roots for a bit. Picture trading your expensive metro rent or mortgage, your daily traffic nightmares, and your HOA rules about approved mailbox colors for a city that actually wants you and pays you to prove it. This isn't some feel-good tourism campaign or Chamber of Commerce fantasy. The Tulsa Remote programs will literally cut you a check for 10 grand if you're working full-time remote for an employer outside Oklahoma and you're willing to relocate within 12 months of getting approved. They want you there so badly, they've built an entire support system around making sure you don't just take the money and run. You get access to co-working spaces, community events, orientation programs, and a network of other remote workers who made the same escape you're considering. Here's what this means for your actual life. You keep your current remote job and paycheck, but suddenly your housing costs drop like a rock. The average home price in Tulsa is about half what you're probably paying in whatever overpriced suburb or city you're stuck in now. Your property taxes shrink, your utility bills get reasonable, and you can actually afford to eat somewhere other than the early bird special at Denny's. Plus, you're not dealing with the same level of bureaucratic nonsense that comes with living in major metro areas where every local council member thinks they're running their own little kingdom. Now, before you start packing boxes, let's talk reality. You still need that remote job. This isn't a retirement bailout or a way to fund your dream of sitting on a porch complaining about kids these days. You've got to be at least 18, legally authorized to work, and currently employed full-time remote by someone outside Oklahoma. Once you move, you need to sign a qualifying lease or buy a home in Tulsa and stick around for at least a year. If you rent, they'll send you the $10,000 in monthly chunks. If you buy, you get the lump sum after closing. The catch is simple. It's still a city. You're not escaping to some off-grid paradise where the nearest government official is 3 counties away. Tulsa has city council meetings, zoning laws, and all the usual municipal headaches, just fewer of them and with less attitude than what you're probably dealing with now. You'll also need to adjust to Oklahoma weather, which means hot summers and the occasional tornado that keeps life interesting. But here's the emotional payoff that makes this whole thing worth considering. You get a significant chunk of cash just for choosing your freedom over the big city corporate grind. You're relocating to a place that values remote workers instead of just renting them overpriced shoebox apartments. Imagine being in your 50s or 60s and finally saying to yourself, "I'm moving on my terms rather than staying locked into a place where the bills keep growing and the freedoms keep shrinking." Next stop, the Mountain State, West Virginia. Not just about coal mines and hollers like your grandfather's stories. These days, they're paying remote workers real money to come live in their hills and rivers. If you've ever dreamed of swapping traffic jams for trout streams and trading HOA meetings for hiking trails, this one might scratch that itch perfectly. We're talking $12,000 in cash, plus outdoor perks that'll make your suburban neighbors weep into their perfectly manicured lawns. The Ascend West Virginia program offers up to $12,000 cash to remote workers willing to relocate to certain communities across the state. But here's where it gets interesting. They're not just handing you money and wishing you luck. They're throwing in free outdoor recreation experiences like skiing, whitewater rafting, and horseback riding. Plus, gear rentals, free co-working spaces, and access to some of the best natural scenery this side of a national park postcard. For folks tired of paying premium prices to live in concrete boxes, this is your chance to wake up to mountain views instead of your neighbor's vinyl siding. You'll need full-time remote work from an employer outside West Virginia, which means you can keep that steady paycheck while dramatically cutting your living expenses. The participating communities include Morgantown, Greenbrier Valley, Eastern Panhandle, Greater Elkins, and New River Gorge. Each area has its own personality, but they all share that mountain town self-reliance vibe where people actually wave at strangers and nobody cares if you want to put a chicken coop in your backyard. Here's what your new life looks like. Wide open spaces, nature right outside your door, and internet connectivity that lets you stay plugged into work without feeling plugged into the machine. Your cost of living drops significantly compared to whatever overpriced metro area you're escaping. Property taxes become reasonable, utility bills shrink, and you can actually afford to heat your house without taking out a second mortgage. Plus, the regulatory environment is way more relaxed than the bureaucratic nightmares you're probably dealing with now. But let's be realistic about the challenges. Internet speed might not match what you're used to in the big city, so check your specific location before you commit. The more rural you go, the fewer amenities you'll find, which means longer drives for shopping, medical appointments, and entertainment. Winters get cold, and some areas can feel isolated, especially if you're used to having everything within walking distance. For some people, that isolation is exactly what they're looking for. For others, it might feel like too much too fast. The real appeal here is simple. You're not just relocating, you're opting out of the rat race entirely. Those mountains represent freedom from gridlock, freedom from nanny state interference, and freedom to actually breathe without someone telling you your breathing technique violates local ordinances. Standing on your porch in the evening, hearing nothing but nature, knowing your tax burden just got reasonable and your stress levels just dropped to manageable levels. Mid-America calls Topeka, Kansas. The big city hustle is gone, the regulations are calmer, and they'll hand you up to $15,000 to move there. That's right, top-end 15 grand. If you're thinking I'm done with the rules, I'm done with the expense, and I'm ready to live somewhere that doesn't treat me like a walking ATM, this one's designed specifically for you. The Choose Topeka program offers up to $15,000 in relocation incentives, and here's how the breakdown works. If you're renting, you can get up to $10,000. If you're buying a home in Shawnee County, they'll bump that up to the full $15,000 maximum. This isn't monopoly money or some tax credit you'll never see. This is actual cash that shows up after you've made the move and proven you're serious about staying. What makes this different from the coastal madness you're probably escaping is the cost of living reality check. Your housing costs plummet compared to anywhere with an ocean view or a subway system. Property taxes stay reasonable instead of doubling every few years like some kind of municipal pyramid scheme. You're in the geographic center of the United States, which means lower travel costs when you want to visit family on either coast, and shipping costs that don't require a second mortgage. Here's the practical reality you need to know. You must relocate to Shawnee County/Topeka area and either purchase or rent a home within 12 months of approval. The catch is employer coordination. Your employer needs to participate in the program, or you need to have a remote job based outside Shawnee County. This isn't a retirement fund or a way to escape work entirely. You're still earning money, just doing it somewhere that doesn't punish you financially for existing. The lifestyle shift is significant. You'll be in Kansas, which means cheap land, affordable housing, and fewer regulatory headaches than major metropolitan areas. The government officials here are less likely to fine you for having the wrong shade of mailbox or demand permits for hanging a bird feeder. It's a smaller government footprint with less heavy-handed oversight than what you're probably dealing with in whatever overregulated suburb or city you're trying to escape. Let's talk challenges. The employer match requirement might limit some folks, especially if you're fully self-employed or your current employer isn't interested in jumping through hoops. Kansas weather means hot summers and cold winters, so if you were expecting year-round beach weather, adjust your expectations. It's still a city region, so if your dream involves deep wilderness or completely off-grid living, Topeka might feel too civilized. But here's the emotional payoff that makes this whole thing worthwhile. You walk away from the high-cost coastal crush and finally own a home while collecting a relocation bonus. All while working remotely, living simpler, and calling your own shots instead of letting some bureaucrat with a clipboard dictate how you live. You didn't win the lottery. You simply leveraged a program built for people exactly like you who are done being squeezed by systems that don't care about your financial survival. Here's a smaller city you've likely never heard of, Paducah, Kentucky. Art town on the Ohio River, where the city government actually says, "Bring your remote job. We'll help you move in, and we won't make you jump through a million bureaucratic hoops to prove you deserve basic human dignity." The bonus isn't $12,000 or $15,000. But listen, if you're on a fixed income, every dollar counts, and this one might be perfect for someone who values substance over flashy headlines. The program offers up to $2,500 reimbursement for your moving expenses, which means they're literally paying you to escape whatever overpriced nightmare you're currently trapped in. But that's just the beginning. They'll also cover up to $70 per month of your internet costs for 12 months, waive the 2% city payroll tax for a full year, and throw in a quality of life package worth approximately $1,150 in cultural and educational perks. Translation: they want you there, and they're willing to prove it with actual money instead of empty political promises. The cost of living reality check is significant. The average home price in Paducah sits around $177,908, which means you can actually own property instead of renting a closet from some corporate landlord who raises your rent every time gas prices change. For folks in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, this represents a chance to live in a river town with genuine arts community, slower pace, and affordability that doesn't require you to eat cat food to pay your utilities. Here's what you need to qualify. You must live at least 100 miles from Paducah city limits when you apply, work full-time remote for an employer outside the city limits, or be legitimately self-employed and remote. You've got to become a primary resident within 3 months of acceptance and commit to staying at least 1 year beyond the initial 12-month program period. They're not asking for your firstborn child or a blood oath. Just proof that you're serious about making the move. The practical challenges are straightforward. The incentive package is smaller than some big-name programs, so you're not getting a free $10,000 windfall, but it's still meaningful money for budget-conscious folks who understand that every dollar saved is a dollar earned. You still need that remote job income, so this isn't a retirement escape plan. As a smaller city, medical options and amenities might be more limited than major metro areas, which means you'll want to research healthcare access and services before you commit. But here's the emotional payoff that makes this whole thing worthwhile. Imagine being in your 60s, finally downsizing the financial burden, moving somewhere genuinely affordable, and not feeling trapped by rising taxes and HOA tyranny while a city government actually gives you a helping hand instead of a citation. It's the kind of move where you feel like you made this decision, you got the help, and you're not stuck anymore. Want a twist? Northwest Alabama, the Shoals region. River, history, music. And yes, there's a remote worker incentive that might just sneak up on you. If you're ready to leave behind the snowbelt or the high-tax states where every local politician thinks your wallet is their personal piggy bank, this one deserves your attention. We're talking about Florence, Muscle Shoals, and Sheffield, where the Tennessee River runs through and the cost of living hasn't been inflated by tech bros and investment firms. The Shoals region offers up to $10,000 in incentives for qualifying remote workers willing to relocate. But there's a catch that might actually work in your favor. You need to be earning at least $52,000 annually from your remote work or self-employment. This isn't a program for people who want to retire and disappear. This is for folks who still have income but want that income to stretch a lot further while living somewhere that doesn't regulate you into poverty. Here's what your new reality looks like. You apply, get accepted, and move within the specified area. The program typically splits the payment over time, some upfront to help with moving costs, and the rest after you've been there 12 months and proven you're serious about staying. You get southern climate, which means actual seasons without the brutal winters that make heating bills feel like ransom payments, river access for fishing, or just sitting by the water without someone telling you that your folding chair violates local ordinances. Plus, you're close enough to larger cities if you occasionally crave big city amenities without paying big city prices. The freedom aspects are significant. More relaxed zoning in many non-metro southern towns means you can actually use your property the way you want. Lower housing taxes and overall cost of living means your money goes further. Plenty of room for self-reliant or semi-self-reliant living, depending on what kind of property you choose and how much independence you're actually seeking. Let's address the challenges honestly. That $52,000 income floor might exclude fully retired folks who don't have active remote work. Southern weather means heat and humidity, which could be a culture shock if you're escaping from Minnesota or Maine. Being in a smaller region means fewer high-end medical facilities or cultural amenities, so you'll need to research whether the available services match your life stage needs. But here's the emotional payoff that makes this whole thing worthwhile. You're not just relocating, you're reclaiming your freedom, your budget, and your time. You're picking a life rather than paying for someone else's lifestyle in a high-tax, high-regulation state. You get a bonus for choosing this path, which feels like the universe finally tipping its hat to your decision to live on your own terms instead of theirs. Okay. Bonus location because you asked for up to $15,000, and sometimes the lesser-known programs deliver the biggest surprises. Cumberland, Maryland, small town, mountain setting, and a pilot program offering up to $20,000 total to move there. Yes, you heard that right. $20,000. If you're completely done with the metro rat race and want somewhere a dollar actually stretches instead of evaporating into some bureaucrat's pension fund, this could be your wild card. According to recent coverage, Cumberland's pilot relocation program breaks down like this: $10,000 in straight relocation cash, plus another $10,000 available for down payment assistance or approved home renovations. That's a potential $20,000 boost to help you escape whatever overpriced, over-regulated situation you're currently trapped in. For folks in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, this could mean buying land or a house very affordably while living near genuine nature in Appalachian mountain country. The lifestyle reality is significant. You're looking at very rural mountain region living with strong potential for actual self-reliance and freedom from the kind of petty municipal tyranny that makes suburban life feel like living in a homeowners association prison camp. Lower housing costs mean your money goes further. Smaller utility bills, less regulatory harassment, and the potential for real land ownership and self-sufficient living if that's the direction you want to go. Here's the practical reality you need to understand. This program is still in its pilot stage, which means the full terms and conditions are still being worked out. Applicants must commit to living in the area for a specified period, but the exact requirements may vary as the program develops. Unlike some of the strictly remote work programs, this one might involve qualifying local employment or commitments to home restoration and renovation projects that help revitalize the local community. The challenges are real, and you need to be honest about them. Rural infrastructure means internet speed, healthcare access, and transportation options may be more limited than what you're used to. You'll need to be comfortable with potentially isolated living and longer drives for services and shopping. The full terms of the program are still evolving, so you'll need to check directly with local officials for current details and eligibility requirements. But here's the emotional payoff that makes this worth serious consideration. This is the kind of move where you can finally say, "I'm done renting my life from a system that doesn't care about my well-being. I'm going where the system actually pays me to escape." You get mountain air, genuine freedom, potential land ownership, and a serious chunk of money up front to make it happen. It's not just relocation, it's reclaiming control over your own life on your own terms. We just walked through 6 towns where instead of you chasing an affordable life, they're chasing you with cash incentives and actual respect. They want remote workers, and bonus, they want freedom-loving, cost-conscious folks exactly like you. Each location has its own flavor. Big city amenities with manageable rules in Tulsa, mountain freedom and outdoor perks in West Virginia, Mid-America. Affordability and central location in Kansas, arts and rivertown charm in Kentucky, southern laid-back living in Alabama, and full-on mountain escape potential in Maryland. Your job now is to pick the one that fits your vision of freedom. Do you want space or community? River access or mountain views? Self-sufficient living or staying connected to modern conveniences? Regulation light or almost no rules at all? And of course, you need to check the eligibility requirements, internet reliability, healthcare access, and actual cost of living numbers before you make any moves. If you're waking up tired of the same old grind, tired of the tax burden, tired of the endless rules and cost escalation, you're not being unrealistic. You're being smart. You're choosing to opt out of a system built to benefit someone else at your expense. Moving isn't running away. It's choosing differently. It's finally saying, "I'll live by my own terms rather than theirs." In our next video, we'll dig into how to pick the right remote work relocation incentive for your age, your income, and your level of freedom desire. We'll compare internet speeds, healthcare access, taxation reality, zoning restrictions, and show you the checklist you must run before you pull the trigger. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because this is the part most relocation videos skip, and you're not going to skip it. Remember, the next time someone tells you that you can't live that way anymore, you can reply, "Actually, I already am, and you just paid me to do it."